And we're at the Warsaw Security Forum, and my next guest here is Garry Kasparov, Russian opposition leader. Sir, thank you very much for joining us on TVP World.
Thanks for having me.
So, starting our conversation today, I'd like to start with the situation in Ukraine. How do you assess Ukraine's current position in the war?
I'm not a military expert. I can analyze the data that's available for all of us. I mean, it doesn't look good. I don't think it's as tragic as some of the Western media and politicians try to present. I think Ukraine just shows phenomenal resilience. And just for a moment, imagine that if me and everybody would be told on February 24th, 2022, that we would be in this situation today, I think we say, wow, that's impossible. They would not be able to survive for more than 2.5 years. And I don't think Putin would be happy to hear this kind of scenario. But obviously, we should not simply look back to February 24, 2022. We can look at this summer 2023. I mean, so many missed opportunities because the free world, led by the United States, failed to do a fundamental thing in every war, in every business, to define strategic goal. Instead of saying Ukraine must win, which also means Russia must lose, we hear all sorts of ambiguous statements. We stand as long as it takes. Ukraine cannot lose. Russia cannot win. Absolute nonsense. So the lack of the strategic clarity in defining the goals of this war, that's what hurts Ukraine. They're making huge sacrifices, and every time, when there's a setback, we hear from Europeans or American politicians, maybe we have to look for a negotiated settlement. There is no negotiated settlement because Vladimir Putin's goal is, and is not going to change, according to him and his propaganda, to destroy Ukrainian statehood. And every negotiated settlement, ceasefire, Putin will view as just as a next step, stage to prepare for the final assault.
We hear from, we have obviously the elections coming up in the United States. We hear from candidate Trump and his vice presidential candidate that potentially they would solve the war in 24 hours. They haven't given specific details of exactly how this could go, but some have speculated that it could be trading some land, some Ukrainian land, for neutrality. Your thoughts on this? Is this a possibility? Would this be accepted by the Ukrainian side?
Now, is it possibility that Trump would move in this direction? Absolutely. Trump views every political act as a transactional. So, and selling Ukrainian territory for making deal with Putin, that's very much, that's in Trump's mind. Whether Ukrainians accept or not, I cannot tell. I don't think we can talk about the end of war. Okay, Trump doesn't care, but we should pay attention to words. The war doesn't end with a deal, because again, the Putin's goal of this war is still to destroy Ukrainian statehood, and that's why temporary ceasefire, especially if it doesn't offer Ukraine ironclad guarantees, which could be only NATO membership or boots on the ground, since none of these are just the options are available. That's not the end of the war.
People in Ukraine say, some people have said this is Putin's war. You hear this a lot in the West. And I'd like to ask you in specific, is this Vladimir Putin's war, or is this a large chunk of Russian society's war as well?
Look, it's a kind of a scholastic debate because, when you talk about, World War II, was it Hitler's war? Because we always say, but massive German population supported the war. Mm-hmm. So as of Russia today, I think that the support for Putin's war in Russia today is, I would say, probably significantly lower than the support for Hitler's war, because there's no real ideology behind it. But we should say that, approximately 1/3 of the population is definitely, just into the war. This was full vigor, with a really small chunk of population opposing it on moral grounds. Majority, 50% plus, doesn't care, but they have to live with that. The problem today is that, the war goes for too long. People have to survive. And the West did absolutely nothing to attract Russians that are against the war and willing to leave because they don't know where to go. Putin won propaganda war on two fronts. internationally, because we could see how Russia today spread this fake news, and we could see the impact of Russian propaganda in America, in Austria, in Germany, in Hungary. I mean, it's almost across Europe, in France. But he also succeeded in Russia convincing most Russians that this is the war between Russia and the West. And the lack of the comprehensive policy. What about millions of Russians? Again, let's say it's 5%. You still talk about millions of Russians that would like to go. Where do they go? And don't forget, these Russians could actually, if they leave, they could put Putin's economy in jeopardy, because who's going to leave? Computer experts, engineers, financiers. Take 1 million of these people out of Russia, and I'm not sure Putin can continue the war. But as of today, it's all, it's like a wall. And that's why, I think many opportunities to create what I call like a free France, the goal, free Russia, has been missed.
So for Russia to change, what is it going to take? The absolute defeat of Vladimir Putin?
Look,
this is collapse of the regime?
Let's not speculate. It's not I'm saying or you saying or somebody else. Russian history gives us a very clear indication what happens if regime wins the war or loses the war. It's just for 200 years you have unmistakable pattern. Napoleon War, victory, triumph, reforms of abolishing serfdom that were prepared by Alexander Speransky. Forget about it. Crimean War, 1854, 1855, terrible defeat. Abolition of serfdom and Alexander II, great reforms, liberal reforms. So, Russo-Japanese War, defeat, constitutional monarchy, parliament. World War I, not a defeat but stalemate, regime couldn't show strength, revolution. World War II, Stalin is victorious, regime gets stronger, and they're still using World War II as the excuse for all the repressions and crimes of the Soviet regime. Afghanistan, Cold War, loss. The end of the Soviet Union. Nothing else but the total defeat of Putin's army in Ukraine can offer Russia a chance. We're not fighting just Putin or his cronies, we're fighting the imperial virus. And the only way to eradicate this virus from the minds of ordinary Russians, it's a shocking therapy. Nothing short of Ukrainian flag and Sevastopol. They have to see empire is dead.
Do you think that there were certain mistakes, policies of the West after the breakup of the Soviet Union that led to Vladimir Putin's rise and the current Russia looking as it does?
I wouldn't call it a mistake, because mistake means you tried. There was lack of policy. The Cold War ended up with a triumph of the free world. And what was the best-selling book of 1992? The End of History. That was a mood. I mean, great book, by the way. I read it. I also enjoyed it. Francis Fukuyama in 1992. But it was, it was a reflection of the expectations that that's over. The history is over. We won, and let's get rich. Let's make money. But the end of the Soviet Union didn't mean the end of this conflict between good and evil, between free world and unfree world. And also, we all made a mistake, not recognizing that the Soviet ideology was a cover-up of Russian imperialism. The real challenge is Russian imperialism. So that's why it's a time now, and the group that I founded, Free Russia Forum, we believe that is our utmost goal is to fight the imperial even symbols. For instance, the flag that I have here, it says "No more blood on Russian flag," or washing the lower stripe. We believe that the coat of arms, the double-headed eagle, those are symbols of the empire that have to be challenged. And don't forget, symbols are so important. What was the first act of Vladimir Putin when he was elected president of Russia? Restoring Soviet anthem. We just have to recognize that it's time now to look, at these 30-plus years, have a very harsh look, recognize the mistake that we didn't want to actually come up with a plan, and also time for the free world to offer the vision. The Cold War was somehow easy, like in chess, black and white. After 1992, there was no vision. So what is the United Nations today? I mean, it's two-thirds of the UN countries, they're run by dictators, authoritarian leaders, some thugs, terrorists. That's That's not the United Nations we need today. We need League of Democracies, like late Senator McCain advocated. We have to start changing things, and we need leadership. We don't need managers. We need vision, because we are at war, and these guys, Russia, China, they fight the war. They're serious. They are not taking it lightly. We just have to pay, back with the same currency.
Garry Kasparov, Russian opposition leader, thank you very much for joining us today and expressing your thoughts. A very interesting conversation. Thank you. And that concludes this edition here from the Warsaw Security Forum. Thank you for watching, and stay with us here on TVP World for more.